In a video talking about teaching self-regulation skills to dogs, this commenter asks if I would use the same approach to improve frustration and tolerance. They're not sure if that falls under self-regulation and comment that the traditional tips like waiting at doors just seem to make their dog more frustrated. I love this question, and the short answer is yes. There are a few other things that I might do as well. Another term that we might use in place of frustration tolerance is learned industriousness, and I touch on this a little bit in the previous video. Learned industriousness is essentially the ability to stick with a challenge, and I often refer to it as sort of the dog's frustration tolerance. And we build that by appropriately matching the challenge with the skill level and the arousal level. If we get that wrong, our dog is going to either become bored, they're going to be apathetic, or they're going to get frustrated. And so the trick is to appropriately match the challenge with the skill level with the dog's arousal level and build as they're successful and make things easier as they're struggling. I might do this through enrichment activities like nose work or puzzles or snuffle mats. Certainly through things like on-off switch games. And because my client population tends to struggle with being highly aroused, with being stressed, with struggling to come down from stress, I am generally doing this in the context of either activities that are inherently calming, like nose work, sniffing, seeking, licking, chewing, eating, or through very carefully measured increases in arousal paired with calming, like on-off switch games. What more traditional impulse control exercises tend to do is take a dog who is already high on the stress scale, who is already experiencing a negative emotion such as frustration, and telling them to engage in delayed gratification and often to hold their body still, which is really hard to do when you're adrenalized and when you're frustrated because you want something and you're not getting the thing that you want or expected to get. And so I do see that those exercises tend to increase frustration. I think waiting is great in situations where it's required for safety and as long as the dog is in a scenario where that's something that they can do. But a lot of times we might address, like, let's say we have a dog who goes absolutely bananas around their food and we try to address that by having them wait for their food. Imagine if you were like frustrated and overstimulated and like starving and you were like, oh, I'm ready for my food. And anytime you exhibited that desire, someone said, well, I need you to hold still and you're gonna have to wait a few more seconds because I didn't like that expression of your frustration or your arousal. I would bite someone. I would bite someone. And so I tend to stay very far away from traditional impulse control exercises. And I tend not to use the term impulse control at all. I tend to talk more about self-regulation and learned industriousness. Learned industriousness is also linked to better resilience to stress, which is important for us as well.